Hi everybody. So you can see that here I made you a sample informative paper. So I went through and I used the planner that I already had. Although I found some real sources because in the other, I told you I was using kind of fake sources. I found lots of real sources and I actually wrote an informative paper so that you can go through, and I'd like you to go through and read it so that you can get an idea of the tone, of how to incorporate your sources, of when maybe you might need to make a shorter quote into a block quote, that type of thing. So I just wanted to go over it really quickly. I'd like you to read it on your own, but there were just a couple notes I wanted to make about it. So obviously you're going to put your name here. I put Sally Student so you wouldn't get confused because my name stays here on your papers because you want the instructor name down here. So your name would go there instead of Sally Student. And then at the top, I have the name of my paper written again, centered and bolded. And then I have my little hook in here. And notice as you read the introduction that even though I kind of start broad with the pandemic, which is a very clear instinct that a lot of us might have to connect your topic to something that's super relevant that's going on, if you read to the introduction, you can see that I am filtering through. I am going through and transitioning. So it's not like I have the pandemic's happening. By the way, have you noticed that marijuana legalization is also going on? Like that might be kind of like a weird way. In this case, I was invoking the pandemic because I think that it does relate to this question of what's going to happen with the way that we dress, both in universities and the workplace. So I try and make a connection here, and you can read it to see how I move from one thought to another. And you're going to want to do that as well. Here, right here. So the last sentence of my introduction, this is my introductory paragraph. I got my hook, a little bit of background. The last sentence is my thesis statement, and my thesis statement goes over all of the different parts of the paper. So I have that phrase, this paper focuses on existing dress codes in higher education. If you look right there, dress codes in higher education, the reasons some institutions have dress codes, boom, reasons for dress codes in higher education. And then the third thing that I mention is how these institutes enforce their dress codes. And so this one, I actually talk a little bit about clarifying and enforcing, but you can see that I'm following the basic pattern. I explain the things I'm going to cover, and then I cover them in the same order. The sections come in the same order that I lay them out in the thesis statement. And that's really what you want to make sure you're doing. So here in dress codes in higher education, you can see that I have, looking at the body paragraphs, I have a citation in every single paragraph. Even here, I don't, here, even though I don't have an in-text citation, I am referring to this outside source of Brigham Young University, which I cite at other places in the paper. You can see here, like this, this is the beginning. This is a nice beginning of a summary sentence because I'm going to summarize what the article's doing overall. In her article, Dress for Future Success, Community College Dress Codes, Grace Chin, 2019, provides a list of community colleges, most of them with a technical focus, which have implemented distinctive dress codes. This is one of those opening summary sentences. And if you look at it right here, you can see that that's all I need to include right here. I talk more about the Chen article later on, but I have that nice sentence that is the start of a summary that also this is a summary of the article contained in itself, and I include that there. So you can see in addition to that, I have some paraphrases, I have some quotes scattered throughout the paper. So like here is an example right here. This is an example of a paraphrase. I have paraphrased this idea, but I'm still including the paragraph number where I found this information. So even though there's no quotes here, I took this from a specific paragraph, so I'm including a citation that looks like that. There's an example, here's an example of a quote, and still, again, I've got the citation after, and I'm putting this in quotes because these words appear exactly like this in the original article. As we go down, you can see that I've got an example of a block quote for you. So anytime you have something that's 40 words or more, you're going to want to do a block quote. And here's an example of what it looks like. Another block quote for you to follow. And then in my conclusion, you notice in my conclusion, I don't have a citation. You don't need to cite in your conclusion. Just in the body paragraphs, you really want to get a source into pretty much every paragraph. But down here in the conclusion, I'm just wrapping up my thoughts. And I return back to the quarantine, and then I talk a little bit about the consequences and the reasons that this is an important discussion to be having. And you'll notice that throughout this paper, you'll be hard pressed to find an opinion. If you go through, you're not going to be able to tell how I, the author, Sally Student, feel about dress codes. Do I like them? Do I hate them? Do I think they're problematic? Do I think everyone should enforce them? Are they mean? You can't tell. I'm just presenting the information. The closest I get to that is probably when I say that schools should maybe think about being a little more explicit in their dress code policies, but that's more like a recommendation than it is an actual opinion on the topic. So I'm really avoiding making a determination about whether I think dress codes are a good or bad idea, whether or not they should or shouldn't be implemented widespread. And you want to keep that same focus. So tonally, I'm hoping that this example serves to really help you guys to understand the kinds of language and the approach you want to take in your informative paper. You can see I'm an English teacher, so, I can't help myself. It is 8 pages long. Yours does not have to be. It's 8 pages long, including the title page and the references. Yours needs to be at least 6, which means that would be 4 written pages. So yours can be shorter than this. I just can't help myself because I'm an English teacher. And same deal with the references. As you look at the references, I ended up needing a lot of primary sources, so a lot of colleges directly. So I included those because I just needed them to make my paper work. I ended up with, I think, 7 sources. You're only required to have 4. You want to make sure, though, that you do have at least 2 academic ones, and you can see right there that I have included my 2 academic sources. You can tell that they are academic volumes because they're coming from these journals with volumes and issues and all that fun stuff. So that's just a little bit of information on this. Please take the time to read it all the way through so that you can get an idea of the tone and the cadence and the presentation that you're aiming for.